Software development is hard because you and your team don't have the soft skills you need, and that's why it's so hard. Today on our podcast, we're going to talk about soft skills, communication, and all the things that makes us all great engineers. To survive and thrive, you must adopt a product-driven mindset. And we're back for another episode of Product Driven. Today, I'm talking to Evgeniy. He is a cybersecurity expert, wrote the book on soft skills for tech, been doing this for a long time. And today we're going to talk about communication skills, soft skills, the non-tech part of things. It's really, really important. In my career, I've always been a CTO, an entrepreneur, and always had to tell people about my product vision, what I want to build, convincing people to help me build it, hire people. All these things are really important as a leader, but as software developers, we always seem to struggle with these soft skills. We seem to be more introverted. We want to hide in the cubicle in the basement somewhere. But that is not the way to get things done. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Very, very happy to be here today. You absolutely right. Soft skills are fundamentally important. And in general, people are like, what soft skills? And there's a variety of different things because if you can think about communication, we can think about questions, we can think about where we're using soft skills, not just themselves. And definitely, when people ask the difference between soft skills and hard skills in programming, when we write something, majority of the time, we expect the same outcome. Yes, there's bugs, yes, there's problems, but we expect the same outcome. With soft skills, completely opposite. I can talk to
Yeah.
Matt in the morning, every morning, but if today you walking on a street and we're talking to you and you step in a puddle, guess what? The conversation changing in a second because something changed on you. And if I don't understand this, if I cannot catch that something change, your voice change if I don't see you, or if I see you, eyes change, it's going completely sideways.
Wait a second. So you're saying we shouldn't only communicate over Slack? Like we should actually talk to people and look them in the eye to understand what they're saying?
When you eat with somebody lunch, do you actually look at them in the eyes when you put a screen between yourself and you eat with them like that, you know?
Yeah, so much
Yes.
about communication is body language, right? But we're losing that by working remotely as well.
We are losing this. It is very hard because when I do a meeting in a meeting room with four, five, six, eight people, and I say, even if you have a laptop there, you're still in the same room. You can still ask everybody, hey, please close your leads. I want to talk with you about something
Yeah.
important. And everybody gonna look at you. Maybe they're gonna have their phone on the side, but still. Right now, when we're talking over Zoom, Teams, Google Meets, or whatever it is, almost by definition, you're going to have more than one screen. Why? Because majority of us now have multiple screens. So you may looking to you at your eyes, or I may looking in a different screens, or I may looking
Am I paying
sideways
attention? Am I
or paying
engaged?
attention.
Yeah.
And even you as a speaker, when you have like multiple windows, how do you know people pay attention to you? Or even if the camera is on and off, and people have these strange excuses. Oh, it's my privacy. It's like, what do you mean privacy? You're at work right now. Like
Yeah,
you
if you
have
were sitting in the office, I'd be staring at you.
100%.
So
And
when
people
you
don't always understand always of where to look. So
so
here's
when you say soft skills, I'm
mhm.
curious what give me the list of soft skills. Let's define
Yes,
soft skills for a minute.
yes. So curiosity could be a soft skill because I actually understand. Vulnerability. Let's dive in later onto vulnerability. So important. Um, Active listening, listening in general. Empathy. Very mislead and strange problem in our life. Empathy, because to get to empathy, I actually need to be curious, to care about you. I need to actively listen to you to actually engage. Only then to get to empathy. There could be the way to ask questions. How do I communicate? I'm fluent, not fluent. Do I use filler words? Do I use filler words? If I'm very monotone, I will talk like this all the entire time and put everybody in sleep, or actually articulate myself better. There's so many like scale of soft skills. It's quite big.
Well, another one that you mentioned before we started recording, I think is important, is like negotiation.
Yes, yes, negotiation because my book is about sales. But in reality, we are selling all the time. Which
Yeah.
restaurant we're gonna go? Which program we're gonna use to record? Can I have another screen? Can I have a different chair? I need a new laptop. I don't have enough RAM in my device. I want to use OpenAI for programming, but there's privacy laws. There's so many things going back and forth between the people. I want more money. I don't want to work in this team. I want to be in a different team. It's so interesting that if you look fundamentally, we all sales all the time.
Well, I think the problem with software developers in general is we tend to be very introverted. I joked about that earlier, but we are usually very logical, very literal people. We're problem solvers. People come to us with problems and we help them solve the problem. We're very deterministic sort of people, right? But nothing about communication is that way, as you
The
mentioned
problem
earlier.
or the opportunity?
All of it.
So I have a small joke and I saying like if you put a developer and an accounting in the same room and only tells them to use the acronym to use as the buddies, they're going to lose themselves in like 5 minutes because nobody going to understand what they're going to talk about. And this is a problem because when I'm talking to you and I know we are in the same space, we can use the same acronyms, we can use the same language. But the expression, try to explain this to the 5-year-old. When I talking to someone that's not in my space, I need to change my lexicon and then change the way I'm to communicate. I need to create metaphors. I need to explain
Yeah.
something like pretend you have a house, or you're going to a dinner, or you need to design something like that, or you need to design your trip. You want to take something from people life and explain this in their way. And I do find that people that are very deeply technical, not just developers, they shy away from this. They don't want to connect. They don't want to understand. They don't want to be vulnerable a bit to do this. And the worst part, I explained to you something you didn't understand. My first reaction, like, are you stupid? And I'm going to repeat the same thing I just told you right now. Like, wait a second. If the first time didn't work, maybe you're going to change how you're going to explain to this?
Well, so you gave a long list of soft skills here, right? Curiosity, vulnerability, active listening, empathy, communication, asking questions, negotiation. Like, there's a very long list, and there's probably 2 or 3 times more of these that you could add to the list. But I'm curious, which of these stand out in your perspective? I have my own opinion I'll give too, but which of these do you think are the biggest struggle for tech people, for software developers?
In general, I think curiosity is very fundamental and important because if you're not curious enough to learn, if you're not curious enough to open up, then it's going to be hard. Second one, in my mind, is definitely vulnerability. People don't want to be vulnerable. People don't want to ask for help. People don't want to open up and say, I didn't understand. Can you explain this again? Or I need help. Can you help me there? Because opening up and being vulnerable is potentially can be slapped on your hands. And people don't like that. And the other one is guidance and being guided. So one is like, I'm gonna guide you as how it's gonna be done in a nice way. And can you guide me what's the best way to explain this to you? Or can you guide me what's the best way to work with you on this particular issue?
So I have an interesting viewpoint of this. So I have over 300 employees in the Philippines that work for me, and we do a lot of different kinds of software development. We've provided over 2 million hours worth of work over the last 7 years. Okay, we've done this for a long time, and what's interesting, especially in software development these days, you are start working with people from all over the world. 90% of software developers are not in the United States, not in Canada, where you're at. They're all over the world. And so as tech people, we end up working with people all over the world, and culture is very different all over the world. How people communicate, all these different soft skills are very different across all over the world. And when we do have challenges with our team in the Philippines, the main feedback we get is things about like, well, they don't speak up enough, in meetings, they don't ask enough questions, they just do what they're told. Like, it's all soft skills stuff, and not everybody has this. It's a small percentage of people, and we work very hard to train them. But what's interesting from our experience and from some of our other leaders' experience over a long period of time working in software development, we came up with something that we think is the underlying issue of most of these soft skill issues. All the things you just mentioned, there's one thing that we've identified that we think is the root of most of these issues, and we refer to it as courage. The issue that we have with most of our developers is they don't have the courage to speak up, to be vulnerable, to guide other people. They don't want to insult somebody. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to speak out of turn. All of these things, like so many of these issues, we boil them down to that courage. What do you think of that?
think courage, as you mentioned right after that, it's a combination of stuff. Is one, be vulnerable because somebody says, "Oh, you're wrong. You're not intelligent enough," or you're not going to describe something correctly, or maybe it's a barrier in the
Yeah.
language itself, English or whatever the language you need to speak,
Yep.
probably English. And it is interesting because I think it's related. And is courage and fear in this case are similar?
Sure.
Because
It is.
and and let's dive to fear because fear is very interesting. If we agree that courage and fear in this case are very, very related, because basically I'm afraid to speak up. I don't have enough courage to speak up from a
Yeah.
variety of reasons. Now, do you know that the second phobia in the world after death is public speaking?
Yeah. Sure.
Just statistically enough. So in this case, it's a mini public speaking because they need
Yep.
to voice their opinions. And it may be not 55,000 people, it may be only five, but it's still baby step. And just as an idea, did you guys ever do lunch and learn? Did you let people to present for a minute or two about something that they are not afraid about the hobby they do, about something that are very, very dear to the heart? An example, I want to start a podcast for a long time. I'm a second time immigrant. English is my third language. If you hear me speak about 10 years ago, it would be completely, completely different. I was so afraid to start a podcast because I knew it's going to be there forever. Everybody will
Yeah.
listen, and I will may screw it up. I heard an interesting gentleman about 6 years ago. If you want to start a podcast and you're afraid, start a podcast about something you know really well and doesn't really matter what's happened. I started a podcast about extreme sports. Dear to my heart, I explain to people what scuba diving, what snowboarding, what bicycling, like what do you mountain biking mean. Did like 5, 6 episodes. Like, okay, it's not so bad. Nobody bite me. Nobody ate me for lunch. So now let's move on. So what I'm saying here, I think it's totally right. People have a fear, and we can help people with fear to do baby steps to first they can talk about the subjects that know really, really, really well.
So there.
Let's open up.
So I think there's a strong correlation here. I did a presentation at our year-end party in the Philippines at the end of December, and we talked about courage in this. And I think there is a correlation between courage and confidence to what you just described, right? Because if you have courage to do something, it gives you more confidence. And then if you're more successful at doing whatever it is, that gives you more courage. Like I think courage and confidence play off each other.
I'm going to add to this. What's the difference between excitement and fear? With excitement, I know the outcome. With the fear, I don't know the outcome. If I'm
Yeah.
going on a roller coaster, I am excited and I'm scared, but I know I'm not going to die. If you take a child and you put them on a slide, they're going to be scared, scared, scared until they do
Yeah.
it once, and they're never, 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 never going to stop. So if I'm letting you to present to a group of people, ask questions, and I know the outcome going to be, oh my God, that's such a good question. Thank you very much for asking. Then slowly, 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 can you change a mental model for this person to say, this is actually excitement for you. This is not scary because you're not scared. You're just excited because it's a new people. It's a new opinion. And don't be shy. Be scared enough that you're able to handle their question because in many cases they probably don't want to speak up because they don't know if they're going to able to handle the question or explain right away what's going to be happening. Just kind of thinking aloud.
So let me ask you, from your experience and in your book, did you provide tips, other tips about how to solve some of these issues
Yes,
in
there's
developing
actually
soft skills?
there's so we'll talk about two things. There's actually a chapter about fear in a book. And the
Okay.
chapter about fear in the book talking about what we just discussed. But there's also techniques. So think about that. When we are doing like living day by day, we're breathing all the time. And we have probably 12 to 15 to 20 breaths per minute. That our breathing is correlated to our heart rate as well. When we under pressure, our breathing is going up, and in many cases, our heart rate is going up. What if I have a mechanical way to lower the heart rate? And by lowering the heart rate, it will influence you become more calm. For example, if we do something called box breathing, came from Navy SEALs and probably came from India before that because everything came from yoga, all the breathing techniques. And box breathing basically refer of inhale for X amount of seconds, let's say 5, hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds. What just happened? Our breathing cycle is 20 seconds. Basically, we're now doing, instead of 12 to 15 breaths per minute, we're doing 3. If you're gonna do box breathing before the meeting or when you not feeling courage for 3, 4 minutes, I guarantee your anxiety will go down. You'll
Okay.
be more calm. It's just mechanics. It's just the way our body is working. People, physical exercise. If you're gonna just do like sit-ups or you're gonna just like roll around yourself for 2, 3 minutes before the meeting, it's also going to transition your mind. There's so many different small techniques that can help you doing that. Maybe you're not going to do the sit-ups before the meeting, but you can do box breathing. You can do something called 1 to 2 breathing, come from yoga. When you inhale for 2, exhale for 4. Inhale for 4, exhale for 8, or whatever it is. You even do it while driving. You can do it while you're waiting on a Zoom. These techniques are proven not by me, just I didn't
Yeah, they're good for
invent them.
anxiety.
Yes.
Well, but if I'm an engineering manager and I'm managing a team, what suggestions would you have for me on how to improve the soft skills of my team?
So, few things. One, you cannot learn riding a bicycle without riding on a
Right.
bicycle. You cannot do it in VR. You have to scrape a knee. You need to understand this part. You need to start training them. So we mentioned launch and learn. If anybody is familiar with Toastmasters, you
Yeah.
can do a mini Toastmasters inside. I'll send people to Toastmasters. But even do it internally. Once in a few weeks, 1 in 2 weeks, you do lunch and learn when we'll let somebody present in a warm environment, in an environment where people know each other. And maybe it's going to be about the topics people know really well. What's your hobby? What's your favorite dish? Which country you visit? Something like that. And you don't want it to be for 25 minutes. You want it to be like 3, 4, 5 minutes. You also want to teach people how to be precise. Because when a customer asking a question, you don't want to go on a tangent and speak for 20 minutes. So, for example, during your lunch meeting, you tell guys you're going to take a card, and on the card is going to be a topic, and you have to talk on this topic for 1 minute. And this could be a topic related to their work. Make it
Okay.
easy, make it something from programming, something they can talk about it, and slowly. Now bring something from food, bring something from history, do something more interesting when people start talking in a friendly environment. The other things, it's kind of hard to push people to do it, but start practicing soft skills outside of work. When you're buying groceries, can you talk to the cashier? Can you make the cashier smile? Can you make a small talk with the cashier? Can you watch people around yourself when they speak, how they communicate, what they do? Here's an interesting phenomenon. When we watch movies, we think the people in Hollywood are just freaking amazing. And guess what? None of us say, oh my God, I'm gonna, well, not us. Most of us don't say, I'm gonna grow up and gonna be like James Bond. Okay. Why? Because they're perfect. So when you watch somebody present and they're so perfect, they think they're amazing, but you don't associate yourself to this person.
Right.
When you see someone present and they make a mistake or two, kind of laugh about it and continue, it's like, oh, he's a human being. Maybe
Yeah.
one day I'll grow up and I'm going to be like that. So this is one part or two parts. Another part I want to mention for the geeks, there is this idea about filler words. Hi, hello, I'm Evgeny. Today I will explain, like, and people say you should remove filler words. But in reality, it's very hard to just remove filler words because we use them as a pause to think about what the next things we're going to say. And I just mentioned a pause. So instead of removing filler words, we can replace filler words with pauses. And it's like, it's easy to say, harder to do. Yes and no. You need to allocate part of your brain, part of your CPU to just watch for filler words when you talk at home, when you talk with your buddies, and then slowly you will remove them, replace them. You know what's interesting? The more relaxed you are, the less the the less, not less, it will be much easier for you to watch for failure words and allocate the
Sure.
CPUs. So it's all connected together.
So we're talking about how to improve soft skills of the team, and we talked about courage and confidence. And one of my theories with the problem with software development in general is a lot of software developers end up sort of being order takers, where leadership, product team, whatever, is kind of handing down requirements to them and telling them, "Hey, go build this thing, go do this," and that in itself is a problem. We need more collaboration. And this isn't a problem at every company, but it is a problem a lot in the industry. And some of it is the developers are just happy to be like, oh, just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. Right. But what we really want is we need the developers to be more involved. And the way that I describe this is we really want to delegate and have the developers more involved in ownership. We want them to have more ownership of whatever it is that they're working on, which could be a very small task, could be a small project, could be an entire product. It could be a lot of things. It could be across a spectrum. But I feel like it's more important that they have some sort of ownership in whatever it is. So not only they're like more motivated and more driven to work on that thing, but it also it forces them to have more courage of like, well, I have to figure this thing out. I'm responsible for this thing. Like I can't blame somebody else. I can't go ask a bunch well, I actually probably do need to ask people a bunch of questions to figure out what needs to be done. But it forces you to have some more courage to figure it out. Like you're forced to figure these things out. You can't just hide in your cubicle and wait for somebody to give you all the answers. What do you think of this?
I think it's definitely important. You need to let people, almost like it was kids in a way. When you trust the kids, like, hey, you're responsible right now. I'm trusting you. You slowly give them this power. And in many cases, people will take the opportunity and like, okay, I'm now responsible. I have authority. I have kind of mandate to do it, and they will take this responsibility. And the ones that will not, probably you're going to be struggling with them because some people would just don't want to take the responsibility.
Yeah.
But the ones they take, it means that maybe they're going to become a team leads in the end, or they're going to move up and do something else.
It's the only way to grow people too.
Yes. Yeah. You need to give them something to say, hey, you're responsible. You figure out how to do it. Come back to me and tell me what you think. And we'll discuss about different ways, not just telling me I know how I want it to be built, but before we're building this, I want you to tell me what do you think is the best way, because maybe you figure out something that I didn't know about it. And I hope it will spark enthusiasm in people because now they can bring their own ideas. And in majority of the cases, even so people are shy and maybe don't have the courage, they are very creative, they are very smart, and they want their ideas to come in life. And say, oh, was a new idea. I brought it up. They can go tell this to their spouses.
Yeah.
They can go tell it to their friends.
Instead of just being given the requirements and said, go do this. So something else I want to talk about is we mentioned earlier about software developers are a different sort of personality. A lot of us, not all of us, a lot of us are a certain personality. And there's a book called Surrounded by Idiots. Have you ever heard of this book?
No, but I now definitely want to read the book.
So I read this. I read more of a summary of the book, anyways, on a recent flight, and it described how there's like four main personality types, and it's people that are more like critical thinking versus people that are more problem solvers, people that are more like the assistants, like that are more like, slow and steady, tell me what to do, I'll help everybody, I'm not going to make anybody mad, I'm just the helper in the group. You got all these different kinds of personalities. But what's interesting, if you're any one of these personalities, you think everybody else is an idiot. Like everybody else frustrates you. Like I am clearly one personality type. My wife is different. And so at times my wife drives me crazy. I was like, she's an idiot. Like she drives me crazy. But she thinks the same thing as me. Like she doesn't understand me at times. She's like, Matt, sometimes you act like an idiot. Like I don't understand the way that you think. I just don't understand. And this book and this concept in general, I think is really important in regards to soft skills because it highlights the fact that you just have to understand that not everybody thinks the same way that you do. Like I think that's the key issue here is, and being able to kind of identify those patterns of like different people or these different personality types. So most of you that are listening to this probably can relate like, oh yeah, I know there's like people are just kind of like different groups of people, right? Like I honestly understand the specific groups, whatever. But generally speaking, like, there's different groups of people. And I think that's the key is like understanding that there's different groups. And for each of the groups, everybody else frustrates you because they just think differently than you do. And I think
I would like to add here, because I think it's fundamentally important. The moment you understand that it's a blessing we have different people, then
yes,
the model changes. Because there is a lot of talks about how company died because everybody in the company was thinking the same. And everybody in
yeah,
the company was hiring people like the same vision. So nobody will can come and kind of challenge the status quo. So if you have a new idea, you want to create a new cup that has AI inside, blah, okay? And you go tell all your friends, and everybody say, "Oh my God, Matt, you're so amazing. This is the best idea." And so Matt go and spend millions of dollars to create this, and then nobody cares about it because none of your
yeah.
friends just kind of challenge you or whatnot. And we know, I think there are some people you come and they're like, "Oh my God, this is good, good, good," and then you come to different people and they say, "Hey, what about this part? What about this part? What about this part?" So we all
You
have
need
different
people to
questions.
challenge you.
Yes. So in environment, we know project management people think differently, very task
Yeah.
oriented. Solution architecture have the bigger vision and can tell you the stuff, maybe, hey, this is a good idea, but how does this work with XYZ? And then the people are going to say, oh, this is good, but did you think about this part? So the moment you understand your team has a different people and all people, or every person in the team can provide a different input, now you
Which is
can use
valuable.
it better. That's very, very valuable. So if you want somebody to encourage you, you're not going to go to the guy or to the girl that always find negative things.
Yeah.
You're gonna go to somebody that tell you how great it is. But then with the moment that you understand, okay, I think I'm at this point that I need feedback to make sure I didn't screw it up, then you're gonna go to the person that can find the negative stuff all the time.
Tell me why this is going to fail. Go.
Yes. And I think the best example is come to sports. When we talk about sports, when talking about soccer, football, basketball, baseball, guess what? Not everybody on the team doing the same thing. Everybody, there's a defense, there's people that are doing different things. Um,
Yeah.
why? Because we find that one person cannot win the game. It has to be a team effort to win
Right.
the game. Yes, in NBA there's Michael Jordans and other people that are very, 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 very unique. But in many cases, one person cannot win everything. We need to support, we need collaboration, and we need anticipation what's gonna happen in our team from somebody else. You want to expect what's gonna happen. Somebody in a team is very good with long tasks and they're not good in multitasking. There are some people that are actually good to change topics and work on several projects that are relatively short and they'll be able to switch the focus. So you're not going to assign a small project to someone that's actually good in the very long projects. So it's amazing if we look on this from different prisms.
Well, and that's why I bring this up. I think it's really important in the soft skills conversation because so much of it is about communication, but it's understanding the people that you're dealing with. And earlier in my career, in my 20s, I always used to get really frustrated with other people because they couldn't do things the same way I did. They didn't think about things the same way I did, and I just felt like, frankly, they were just kind of stupid. You're like, why can't you do things as fast as me? Why don't you understand this? Like, you just get very frustrated with people, right? Well, a long time later, I understand like I just have different skills, I have different points of view, I have different, everything, right? And I think it takes a long time for us in our life to learn some of these types of skills. I think the other one that is a really great example of this is understanding a lot of times in life, people come to you with problems. They don't want you to solve the problems, they just want you to listen. And this is like being married. Being married is a big part of this. Or certain friends, right? Like they don't really they come to you and like I have this problem, and a lot of times as software developers we jump in we're like let's solve the problem. Let's logically work through this thing, but they just really want a therapist. They want somebody just to
And
listen.
there is this methodology with kids, but also I think applicable to grown-ups. Is, hi Matt, how are you? I want to talk to you. I'm actually telling you. I would just want you to listen. So
Yeah,
that basically listen, help me solve, do it instead of me. Okay? Like like take it away, make it happen. But it's hard for us back to opening up, back to guidance, back to being vulnerable to tell you why I'm here.
Yeah.
The interesting part, like in my career, I have few people that I knew I can call them that are deeply technical. Like, okay, I need to tell you about the problem I'm having. Now I'm telling about what's happening, and I know they understand, and they may sometimes probe with the question. Oh, so you mean you did that? Oh, what about this part? So they're kind of slowly guiding you, but they're not solving the problem because I don't know how to solve it.
They're asking the
But
right
we,
questions.
yes, but by you telling, like, wait a second, I'm just telling you, and when I'm voicing what's happening, in many cases, I can come to the problem or the resolution by myself.
And I think that's a lot of what a lot of types of coaches and stuff do, right? Like they don't necessarily have the answer to anything. They're great listeners, and they just keep asking the questions. They keep pulling of getting you to say, "Oh, well, you could do this, or you could do this. Well, why would you do it this way, or why wouldn't you do it that way?" You're pulling that information. But the reason I bring this up is it's another example of soft skills, again, of just dealing with other people and understanding who you're dealing with. And for those that are listening to this right now, probably know certain people in their lives are this way. Like always, they always want to come, they always want to complain, they always want to talk about all this stuff, and maybe they drive you crazy. Sometimes they drive me crazy because I'm like, we'll just figure this thing out. Let's go. Like I don't want to talk about all this stuff. But man, it's such an important skill, especially in relationships, like in our personal life. A lot of us have significant others that are this way too, and so I think it's another really important learned skill, but also applies to work. It also applies just again dealing with other people and communication.
Yep, 100%.
Well, I really appreciate having you on the show today. I'm curious as we look to wrap this up. Do you have any other great tips? You know, knowledge bombs you can drop on us before we wrap this up.
And this time there's a lot of different things. But first of all, I do believe fundamentally of 80-20 rules. And one
Yes.
the idea here is take baby steps to take you out of your comfort zone and try new things. By trying new things in a baby steps, you understand there is a lot of interesting things happening behind our comfort zone. And I'm not telling you to have to do it all the time. Just try from time to time, do it with a friend, but figure out what you can do. In many cases, when people learning soft skills, is the stuff we hate to do, we don't want to do, is the stuff we actually need to do
Yeah.
and learn. Okay. There is a guideline, there is like a called SSDP, Software Skills Development Plan on my website, softskillstech.ca, that people can download. And it's like 30, 60, 90, 120 days plan to help you with soft skills in general, what you can do. So I definitely suggest people to explore this and understand what's happening. It's hard to kind of, there's many different things, but the main part is just start with the journey, enjoy the journey, do the baby steps, understand what's happening, open up to the ideas, go talk to your friends, ask your friends, like, hey, I kind of want to understand more about myself. Do I interrupt people when they talk? Am I a good active listener? Can you talk to me about that? What is the part you'll not talk to me about it? Is to understand more about yourself.
Well, I think you mentioned earlier something that's really important about like you can't learn to ride a bike unless you actually ride a bike, and I always describe it as you can't learn to swim from reading a book. Like it's just not possible, right? You just have to do these things, and I think you're right. It's like the things that you're the most uncomfortable with, that you don't like doing the most, are probably the things you need to spend more time on, even though you don't like them. So
Do want to add one small part. If you can find a mentor, find a mentor.
absolutely. Tell us a little more about your book, for those that might be interested in your book and how this could help them learn as well.
Definitely. Book is available on Amazon. It's an audio version, came out actually a couple of weeks ago as well. So Amazon printed edition, Kindle as well. Uh, the book will dive into explain how the sales work in technical world, but the second part of the book is applicable to everyone to understand about open-ended questions, not open-ended questions, how to connect to people, how to do research, how to do discovery, how to actually connect to you on you level, how to use hooks. Because when I'm talking to you, there is many different ways for me to connect to you. As we spoke about this before the recording. If I can connect to you on a personal level in the first 2, 3 minutes, our conversation will flow differently completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also trainings going to be coming out very soon, created to help people better with their skills when they get hired. but it's also applicable how to be on Zoom, how to talk on Zoom, how to communicate better, how to remove filler words. So I'll send it your way when it's hope available in the next few weeks.
All right. Well, again, this was Evgeniy with Soft Skills Tech. Check out his book. Really appreciate having you on the show. Any other thing people should know about how to find you, get in touch? You have a
LinkedIn,
podcast.
LinkedIn, or go on LinkedIn, EVGENIY KHARAM. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Feel free to ask questions. Go to the website as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Product Driven today. If you're passionate about building user-centric tech products, join over 30,000 tech leaders who receive the Product Driven newsletter directly in their inbox every week. Visit fullscaleteam.com/newsletter to sign up today for our newsletter. You can also view all of our episodes on YouTube and join over 50,000 others. And please follow me, Matt Watson, on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.